Hello there guys, it's Joey and this is the witchy vlog for this week's Shapeshifter Oracle card, which I'm not even going to try and pronounce, I got told off last time. But if you want to hear the meanings of that card, that is in the original connecting to video. But I'm just going to quickly recap on a couple of points from the meanings that I think are going to be important as we go forward through the recording of some of my week. So this line I think is very important. Will you shift your consciousness? Will you change deliberately despite the fear and others that tell you you are wrong? Or will you move away from fighting oppression, opposition, the either-or mentality and shift into a beingness that allows for a greater reality? The time is now. A deliberate effort to move away from navel-gazing and procrastination will transform into a determination to become through doing. Okay, a couple of quotes from early on. She has all this power but she doesn't even use it. Alice Hoffman, which is of course from the Practical Magic book as well as the movie. She was an infallible prophetess, and these powers came from her ability to look into the patterns of the universe. Margaret Atwood. We do not heal the past by living there, we heal the past by living fully in the present. There are a few key themes that already start to be hinted at the start of the week. It's been a little bit of a disjointed week because of Samhain, which meant that all the Samhain energies came bursting through right at the beginning of the week. However, as I gave it a couple more days on purpose because of this, to make sure that I fully absorbed the lesson, the energy that was coming from this card. So, the first is about doubt and fear and the debilitating power that doubt and fear have on you as a human being and as a spiritual being and as a magical being, as in witchcraft and connecting to the energies and performing acts of spell work and things of that nature. The first quote sort of hints at the fact that your fear or your pig-headedness can interfere with your own ability, your own power. The second quote tells you that, you know, one of your strengths to be able to see the patterns of the universe, the interlinking energies, the messages, the symbols and things. And then the third quote seems to be the advice to live present. Then of course there's Samhain. So I'm going to read to you a couple of things from Samhain that I've already shared on Facebook publicly, and the rest of it is private. So I wrote for the Forgotten Dead, which is often a focus of mine around Samhain. This is my own work, so. Honour to thee, the forgotten dead, that time and place erode. You lived and loved and fought and died, in song you now abode. Whether gravestone marks you out or whispers on the wind, forgotten not this Samhain night, silence I rescind. Honour to the forgotten dead, pass peacefully along the road, for whomever you were in life, be free now of that load. Joanne Morris, 2014. I visited the local graveyard and placed apple slices on the forgotten, abandoned or uncared for graves, and brought a handful of hazel catkins home with me. On my way home I saw a poppy that had sprung up overnight as a gift. So I'm not going to discuss my Samhain any more than that. It's a private thing, it's a personal thing. So I do though believe in honouring the forgotten. I do this every year with the graveyard. Here I go twice a year. Place apple slices on Samhain or Mabon, depending on my feelings, my energies at the time, and rose petals on Beltane. So in the first half of the week there had been references and constant sort of coming up of poppy, basil, pumpkin seeds and nightshade. The nightshade and other references to poisonous plants had been hinted at this week but hadn't come to the fore, so I think that's going to be something to investigate further and look at further in future weeks coming up. Basil is used to steady the mind, to bring peace, money, protects against insanity, peacemaking, attraction in love spells, luck in physical journeys, and preparation for astral projection. Poppy was a gift upon returning from the graveyard, definitely a flower that I associate with the Morrigan, particularly in her Bave or crone aspect, to do with death and peace and things that death bring. Pumpkin seeds from Samhain are to do with rebirth and new beginnings, protection and prosperity. It's worth noting here that the poppy is death, the pumpkin is rebirth, and basil is very much life. It's already hinting at time and cycles. So I then wrote down a quote, which the original quote was from the Smart Witch, and it was wish and then do, and wish was crossed out. However, I don't agree with that. I think wish and do in combination. November is the month of transformation. It is the time to prepare for the coming winter and the time to strengthen communication, the Old Crone's Corner. Spiritual does not mean divorced from the physical earthly realm. The earth is one of the most divine forms in all creation. Christopher Penczak, and it was shared by Southern Hemisphere Pagan. It's going to be hard, but it's not impossible, the Smart Witch. So there's been quite a bit of an undertone actually this week, an undercurrent of the fact that spiritual does not mean divorced from the physical earthly realm, as that quote suggests. There have been multiple quotes this week about the fact that there are people who seem to think that being spiritual is to try and divorce ourselves from our human emotions, and that being all of the human emotions. And that's something that came up a little bit more later in the week. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. I went to the neighbouring town. There was a bronzite that spoke to me, as well as tumbled labradorite, a larger labradorite that the lady in the shop fetched out for me, and a small labradorite wand and a rough piece of selenite. My intuition has come back leaps and bounds since chakra cleansing with the labradorite wand. I could even feel the energy shifting. I felt the very urge to do a particular piece of magic a particular time, and it turned out the moon had just shifted into Taurus, and it being the night before the full moon, I also knew about people who needed my assistance. I could just feel that. And carrying the bronzite, there's something tribal and wolfy about it too. It's a serene stone which is effective against cursing and negative ill wishing, as it returns any ill intent back to source, magnified, best coupled with black tourmaline to ground off and stop the interaction, the link between the two completely, which means that it returns it and grounds it off so it can't keep coming back. Protective grounding crystal, helpful when you feel powerless in discordant situations or situations that are beyond your control, helps you see the bigger picture, helps you in overcoming stress and how to go with the flow of divine will. As then we start looking at wolf energy. So I'm just thinking where I think my bronzite is over there, so it's a bit far for me to get up and go get it, never mind. So that was the beginning of wolf energy, and in coupled to that there were a lot of wolf images this week everywhere. I had wolves show up in meditation this week, particularly with regarding to the Morrigan, and I've said in the wolf video and in the past that wolves are associated with the Morrigan, and quite frequently they get left out, and we've had a whole video talking about wolf energy on purpose before this video. We're going to go over the wolf prayer again because I think it's important. Spirit of the wolf, you who wanders the wild lands, you who stalks in silent shadows, you who runs and leaps between the moss-covered trees, Lend me your primal strength and the wisdom of your glowing eyes. Teach me relentlessly to track my desires and to stand in defence of those I love. Show me the hidden paths and the moonlit fields. Fierce spirit, walk with me in my solitude, howl with me in my joy, and guard me as I move through this world. The wolf was the very embodiment of raw primal force, and for whoever lost in the fight, the wolf was always the winner. They have a significant role in northern mythology, as well as many others, women of Astarte. Right, so presuming that you have seen the wolf video, I don't feel the need to go into every little nuance of the wolf energy again this week. There was that balance of masculine and feminine, the importance of the number 3 as well as the number 7, the sides of the self, the primal side of the self and the civilized side of the self, if you like, as well as it being to do with guarding and guiding through the dark times, or I really don't like using dark in this terminology, but it's just easier. Shadow work or fear work, the balance of the self. And I think that is very important. We've already had hints and energies and symbols about overcoming fear, overcoming doubt, and balancing of the two sides of the self, which is particularly in keeping with this time of the year. So these are my thoughts. The wolf energy can be seen to connect this oracle card to Morrigan, for whom snakes are often an unmentioned totem. Again, snakes are something which people are fearful of and associate with sort of negative things because of biblical references and things. Morrigan is a master of disease and healing, which is often sidelined in favour of other war, death and things, energies. The symbol for healing is a snake around a staff, which is also associated with the Kundalini, the yoga referenced energy awakening through the chakras, bearing in mind I did a lot of chakra work this week with my Labradorite wand. This is the connecting of self to higher self, also a wolf theme in the balancing of the two sides of the self to the chariot. In the tarot version of this, that if you've seen the wolf spell you will understand that a little bit more than if you haven't. The snake is also found in Morrigan's megalithic tomb shrine in Newgrange Island in the form of triple snake spirals, triple source of power to regenerate cycles. This also intercedes with the energy of Ouroboros, the infinity symbol of a snake, consuming its own tail, which connects my early experiences of wolves to now energies of crows, through the energy of snake and the importance of experiences as being timeless, or the merging of experiences as we dismiss the idea of linear time. So if you consider the infinity symbol, which is also considered to be in some the Ouroboros symbol, which also ties in, of course, to the Marielle symbology, then this is how wolf, snake and crow all integrate within the Morrigan. The Morrigan is, to me, my connection to the divine, the infinite, the Ouroboros, the circle of life, death and rebirth. Those symbols of snakes as present in this card are, for me, very much about time, energies, life, death and rebirth in cycles, which the Morrigan is all about. There's also that energy of the infinite running through our bodies in terms of our chakras, through ourselves, our energy, our connection both to earth and astral, I guess is the easiest way of putting it. The higher self and the human self, the mundane, the everyday, the two wolves and the chariot, all in this triangle of connection, this triple aspect coming through, the importance of 3 and the infinite and the cycles all surrounding it. This week has been incredibly interlinked, even more than I have been for a long while. I think it was absolutely the right choice to shift to these cards. It's also worth mentioning, of course, these cards are Shapeshifter Oracle, so the energy of a particular animal in any one card isn't necessarily set, and looking for how the energy shapeshifted into the other, which is present here with Crow and Wolf through the Morrigan. The Shapeshifter is showing how the energies of the card go beyond the imagery in the card. I love this quote this week. I think this quote ties together all the themes. The quote is by Robert R. McCammon. We all start out knowing magic. We are born with whirlwinds, forest fires and comets inside us. We are born able to sing to birds and read the clouds and see our destiny in grains of sand. But then we get the magic educated right out of our souls. We get churched out, spanked out, washed out and combed out. We get put on the straight and narrow path and told to be responsible, told to act our age, told to grow up for God's sake. And you know why we're told that? Because the people doing the telling were afraid of our wildness and youth, and because the magic we knew made them ashamed and sad of what they'd allowed to wither in themselves. Another quote from Pinterest this time. To be a witch is to be a healer, a helper, a teacher, a seeker, a giver, a warrior, a protector of all things. If this path is yours, may you walk it with honour, light and integrity. And then a word of warning. The definition of insanity is repeating the same behaviours and expecting a different outcome. Albert Einstein. The focus of this week has definitely been a highlighting of patterns of behaviours, both mine and others, as well as examining my fear in reaction to them, or relation to them. This ties into the theme of the Ouroboros in terms of lifetime experiences, in seeing where you were versus where you are, and integrating lessons from then and now, and not being afraid to go back and relearn the lessons if you need to. That's come up a couple of times this week. Going back, looking at things that you have learned, refreshing your memory, and it's not just been for me this week either. At one point this week I was concerned about my decisions. Perhaps I had made incorrect or overly emotional responses to things. I'm wondering if I should go back on my decisions to create boundary. Quickly the answer from the universe came back loud and clear. Stand true to yourself, your choices, and keep healthy personal boundaries. Do not fear your choice or people's reactions to your choice. It was not only right but necessary, highlighted in the continuous destructive and or hateful game-playing patterns of those individuals. Then there are those patterns in others I cannot change, which is pretty much everyone's. We have to completely give up and lose the illusion of control, particularly when it comes to others, and choose not to engage in healthy reactions to others out of fear. Manipulating others, lying to save face, pretending to be people we are not, are all negative false traits of the afraid. Again, crystals this week reinforced the idea of not being afraid. We had kyanite with the negatal altar and lithium quartz with the negatal altar, all energies to do with cleansing the mind of fear and depression, which allow us to repeat negative behaviours which really are detrimental to us. Excuse me. The idea of connecting to the inner wolf, the balancing of the self going into the dark half of the year, the balancing of the chariot and the number 7 all reaffirm the need to keep healthy personal boundaries. Never waste your words on people in your life who deserve silence, because sometimes the greatest show of strength is to say nothing at all. White Magic Alchemy. To remember who you are, you must first forget who they've told you to be. Women of a Star True, which was a photo of a black and white wolf in front of a moon an hour after I released the wolf video, so that was a huge message.